Hi everyone, so as Adrian said, I'm Poppy, and I'm going to talk to you today about how we've been exploring user needs and community building in the environmental domain. So a little bit of context setting. So we are data and computing experts in the environmental domain. So the EDS, or Environmental Data Service, is a relatively new integrated service. So we're made up of 5 separate data centres, and these have been going around for a long time. So CEDA, the Atmosphere and Earth Observation one that I'm part of, we've been going for 30 years. But the umbrella organisation of the EDS is relatively new. So we've got a range of different expertise within our teams, from data management to development to user experience, project management, all of the things you'd expect. So why are we focusing on environmental science? So I think naturally environmental science is multidisciplinary, and that naturally requires federation and community building. So we've got lots of connections in lots of different places with a large diversity of stakeholders. So we've got academic researchers, industry, we've got lots of different examples of people who use our services in different ways. And one of the things we're trying to do is build upon the existing sorts of federated teams that we've got, and explore how we can better develop them as a further use case. So a little bit of evolution of our service. So as I said, we originally started completely separate on the left-hand side, and then about 8 years ago we kind of moved into this very thin layer of integration. So I think we had about 10% of our budget that we were meant to spend on working together in better ways. And then about 3 years ago, we were very much more told that we had to be more integrated. So we're now in the yellow sort of phase. And that will continue in the next recommissioning, which is quite timely because that will happen in the next 2 years. So I think the idea is that we will become one single entity, much more defined rather than separate data centres. And then the future vision is how can we integrate our environmental data across not just environmental domains. So lots of the logos I've added in just as examples of environmental organisations that we might want to collaborate with and join our data up, but also thinking more broadly across different domains. So how can we link into national data opportunities like the National Data Library? So within this sort of federated service, we've got sort of a roadmap, and on the left-hand side is where we currently are. So this roadmap was made about 3 years ago. It's very internal, it's very basic. It's basically some PowerPoint slides with some objectives around different themes that we want to focus on. It's got different levels of granularity around the tasks that we want to do, and it was very much top-down, created by management. No one who's actually doing the work really understands how their work fits into the roadmap. So it's one of those where it's very much just been built, and we sort of getting better and getting there. But what we really want to move towards is a much more user-driven approach to building our roadmap. So at the moment, it's, I'd say, primarily driven by management and our funders and what they want and need, and maybe the technical requirements that our teams say that we should be exploring. But what I'm really interested in and what we've been trying to do in this project is to understand how we can better embed user needs into things like roadmaps. So the United project has a terrible acronym, but we tried. And we're focusing on 3 key areas in the project. So first of all, we have done a best practice landscape review of different federated roadmaps, and specifically looking at how they've considered users, have they spoken to users when they've developed those roadmaps, how are they doing that? The second one, which I'm particularly interested in, is around community building and how we can get federated teams to work better together in different ways. And then finally, we're looking at existing user personas and types of users that might want to use environmental services and what the barriers and challenges are for that. So we're going to do this stuff / doing this stuff, and then we're going to create an updated version of the roadmap to use as an example, to be like, okay, here's what we've learned, here's how we've adapted it to improve our existing roadmap. And we hope that the processes that we're following and trying will hopefully be useful to other federated communities like those here today. So I'm just going to talk about 2 areas of those 3 that I just mentioned. So the first is the best practice landscape review. So we did a bit of a scattergun approach and found different federated organisations that sort of work in federated ways that we are aware of, both within environmental domain and external to that. And we've gone out and asked them to have conversations with us, done interviews. And from that, we've identified 8 categories that make up a successful federated roadmap. And there's different aspects within those categories that focus more on users, but actually quite a lot of them think about users in slightly different ways and how you might want to interact with users based on the different categories within them. So once we finish the analysis of that, of the interviews, we will identify what the good practice is from that and hopefully share what we think other road mapping exercises should be doing and what you should avoid. And then second one this is the bit that I'm interested in and I've been working on. So there's loads of people in this room. You speak to everyone and you have little nuggets of like, oh, that's interesting to me, or oh, that overlaps with me. But none of us know that we've had those conversations. So one of the things that I've been trialing is some software to view different skills and roles and responsibilities within federated teams and understand how you can explore that and make it transparent so you can better find that information, basically, because we're about 150 individuals. We don't all know what each other do, and we're not all completely focused on this area either. We do lots of different other research too. So how can we best display that information in a way that is really transparent and allows people to have the autonomy to reach out and speak to different people who they're interested in talking to? And so there's various links in here. Hopefully the slides will be shared afterwards. I'd assume they're nodding, cool. So feel free to explore that afterwards. And then finally, a plea, if anyone is going to the Research Data Alliance online plenary in a couple of weeks, I'm hosting a Birds of a Feather session there. So it's a discussion session. And basically the idea is to explore whether there's interest in building a community of experts who are interested in understanding user needs and how we can better connect and build a community in that area. I think that's it from me.